Welcome to CrimeBot Chronicles, where we uncover the darkest corners of the human psyche and bring you the true stories behind the crimes that shock the world. If you love real-life mysteries, psychological twists, and gripping criminal cases, make sure to hit subscribe, like, and share. Don't forget to comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. June 1st, 2025. Boulder, Colorado. A warm, clear Sunday afternoon. In the heart of the city, the Pearl Street Mall was its usual self, families eating ice cream, college students filming TikToks, and a peaceful demonstration winding through the crowd. It was meant to be a day of unity, a silent walk organized by the humanitarian group Run for Their Lives, dedicated to advocating for the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas. No one suspected that terror would erupt in the middle of such peace. At exactly 1:26 p.m., that peace exploded into fire. A man burst forward from the sidewalk. His hands held Molotov cocktails. A makeshift flamethrower slung across his shoulder ignited in a burst of flames. People screamed. Seniors and children ran for cover. Glass shattered. Flames leapt across banners, clothing, skin. The man shouted just two words, "Free Palestine," before throwing his first bomb. 12 people suffered burns. Some collapsed on the sidewalk, smoldering. Others ran, clothing aflame. One victim, a Holocaust survivor, aged 88, stood frozen in disbelief as fire licked his shoes. And within 3 minutes, it was over. Police tackled the suspect to the ground. Witnesses described him as calm, unmoved by the chaos. His name, Mohamed Sabry Soliman. Who was he? What led him to unleash such fury on innocent people? And how did someone living quietly in Colorado Springs become the face of one of the most shocking hate crimes in recent American memory? To understand that, we have to go back, way back. Soliman was born in Egypt on December 15, 1979. According to immigration records, he spent 17 years living in Kuwait, where political discourse often simmers with regional tensions. Not much is known about his early upbringing, but friends say he was quiet, educated, and seemingly devout. He entered the United States on August 27, 2022, using a B1/B2 non-immigrant visa, typically used for tourism or business. But shortly after his arrival, he filed for asylum, claiming he feared persecution back home. He cited political unrest and concerns about retribution for personal beliefs. His visa expired in February 2023, but asylum seekers are permitted to stay while their applications are under review. During that time, Soliman was granted a work permit in March 2023, valid for 1 year. When it expired in March 2025, Soliman never renewed it. To neighbors in Cimarron Hills, Colorado Springs, Mohamed Sabry Soliman was polite. Reclusive, perhaps. He introduced himself to a mother and daughter living next door. Their kids played together. But behind closed doors, Soliman's world was unraveling. According to federal investigators, Soliman had grown increasingly radicalized online. He visited message boards that spewed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He watched YouTube videos on how to construct incendiary devices. And in his diary, he expressed a twisted belief that he had a divine obligation to act against Zionist oppressors. He wasn't just angry. He was preparing for something. The mother next door recalled that on May 31st, the day before the attack, the mood changed. The normally friendly family left in a hurry. The woman waved at Soliman, but he didn't wave back. He was carrying a large black duffel bag and a long yellow lighter, the kind used for barbecues. That same day, Soliman took one last step. He left a chilling video message for his wife and children. In it, he spoke calmly, almost eerily. "What I do tomorrow, I do for justice. Do not grieve. This is God's will." He had been planning the attack for over a year. He constructed 18 Molotov cocktails. Only 2 were used during the actual assault. The rest were found later in a nearby parking lot, hidden in bushes. He admitted to police he intended to cause far more destruction but couldn't bring himself to go further. Psychologists would later interpret this hesitation as evidence of a deep inner conflict. Soliman wasn't a traditional psychopath. He had a family, a stable home, no criminal record. But he was angry, ideologically driven, and emotionally deteriorating. He told detectives he was suicidal and had hoped to be shot by police. He wasn't just staging an attack, he was orchestrating his own public death. So why didn't he pull the trigger further? Investigators theorize that at the last moment, fatherhood clashed with fanaticism. Despite months of preparation, despite the manifesto, despite the Molotovs, something inside him wavered. He dropped the flamethrower after igniting it only once. And when he was tackled, he didn't resist. When interrogated, he said, "I wanted to kill all Zionist people. But not everyone looked like they were." His target wasn't specific. His logic was warped. His emotions, contradictory. In short, he was both determined and disoriented. The FBI swiftly took over the case, labeling it an act of domestic terrorism motivated by hate. Federal hate crime charges were filed along with 16 counts of attempted first-degree murder and possession of explosives with intent to harm. At his first court appearance, Soliman showed no emotion. He declined to speak and was assigned a public defender. His bail was set at $10 million. He faces 600+ years in prison if convicted. But the legal system now faces a challenging question. Is Soliman mentally fit to stand trial? His defense has hinted at psychological evaluations, suggesting he may not fully understand the scope of his actions. Prosecutors argue otherwise. They claim Soliman's detailed planning proves clarity, not delusion. The community of Boulder is still reeling. At a vigil held just days later, hundreds gathered: Jews, Muslims, Christians, atheists. Survivors of the attack, some still in wheelchairs, spoke through tears. "He didn't just burn skin," said one survivor, a 68-year-old woman with second-degree burns on her legs. "He burned peace." Perhaps most symbolic was the appearance of the 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, wrapped in bandages, walking slowly, but present. He spoke in a soft voice. "I've seen hatred before. This wasn't new. But it still hurts." Politicians from all corners weighed in. President Trump condemned the attack, blaming weak immigration oversight and calling for tighter asylum vetting. Colorado officials defended their record but acknowledged flaws in tracking visa expirations. Security agencies are now re-examining asylum applications filed under suspicious ideologies. Social media companies face renewed pressure to crack down on DIY weapon tutorials and hate-based echo chambers. And yet, the questions linger. Could this have been prevented? Were there warning signs? And if so, why weren't they caught? According to criminologist Dr. Maya Goldman, this case represents the modern terrorist profile. He wasn't part of an organized cell, she said. He radicalized in isolation, weaponized himself with online knowledge, and executed his plan based on identity-fueled hatred. In other words, the threat is no longer overseas, it's next door. This case is a chilling reminder that homegrown extremism wears many faces. Soliman wasn't a stereotype. He was a father, an immigrant, a quiet man who snapped. But inside that calm exterior, rage had been growing for years, until it found fire. As his trial begins, the world will be watching. Not just for justice, but for answers. Because behind every attack is a story. And behind every story is a warning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of CrimeBot Chronicles. If you found this story impactful, please subscribe, like, and share. Drop a comment below. What do you think led Mohamed Sabry Soliman down this path? Could more have been done to stop him? Your engagement helps keep this channel going. And remember, we don't just report the crimes. We analyze the minds behind them. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep questioning.